Hello YouTubers, week 4 of the big clay pond dig. As you can see, we're getting somewhere. We're getting a really big pile of dirt, very clay dirt at that. And you'll see it's going all the way up there now, spreading it out quite nicely because we've made some progress this week, as we do every week, or have been. As you know, we got the shape cut out last week, picked up a load of bricks, smashed through a lot of topsoil, and have cleared quite a lot out. But this week decided to go a slightly different route. So the landscaping route was still on the cards from as an option for getting progress made, but this week I've decided to see how far the clay goes down. So if we go over here to where we were last week, you'll see I've put a beam across. That's a 10-foot beam that I found just kicking around in the woodland. The idea with that is, behind that you can see that's going to be a gravel trap, and add some drainage, add some filtration, get some plants in there. As you know, there's going to be a filter up there, and a waterfall cascading down. And then, as I said last week, I've dug a little trench to replicate where the deep part is going to go. Sorry about the camera work again, slightly drunk. But also what I've done is I was kind of questioning myself and my sanity that would the ground hold water, was what I was doing the right thing. I know it's fairly clay, but I wanted to be more productive and kind of try and prove it. So what I've done is pan around here. It's quite exciting in a way that we've got a big hole this week. I've got an even bigger pile of bricks, and you'll see here concrete, which I've been smashing up this week. There's been a big plate of concrete about 2 meters round, right where I've been digging this hole. So I've had to smash through that with the pickaxe, and it's been really tough work. But if I stand here, which is sort of the edge of what will be the pond, so step down there, well, that's where the topsoil is I've removed. Just out there, there's a big hole. It's probably not as deep as it looks. It's about 4.5 to 5 feet deep, but it's probably only about 4 feet to the water line, if that makes sense. And I'll try and explain what I mean in a second. So as far as sort of, there's the pond as we know, and in that sense we've got all the topsoil, or a lot of the topsoil removed, most of the topsoil removed. But now I'm down into the clay, and I'm wanting to find out how deep the clay goes. So if we look over here, we'll get some more close-up shots and images this week. You can see where I've dug down, and I've gone down sort of 6 to 8 inches. That is the topsoil, and that's been removed on the whole site. So the outline of the pond, all the 6 to 8 inches, first 6 to 8 inches is gone. But this week what I've started, and it's a hole that's about 6 foot wide, 14 feet long, is I've started to dig down. So you can see here the topsoil is sort of, that's the topsoil section, and then you hit this clay, or I've hit this clay. And if I pan out a little bit, you might see a little bit better. That sort of drops down about a foot there. Standing back from here, it sort of drops down in stages, little platforms, until you get into the hole at the bottom. And I was hoping actually to have it 6 feet deep down there this week, but unfortunately it's been a lot more work than I thought. So I'm about 4.5 feet down, and the clay has changed sort of consistency quite dramatically, and I'll show you. We'll do a bit of a close-up on the cross section of the soil. So if we step down here, it's a bit like the scene in Wayne's World when he's going down gradually behind the sofa, so into the basement. So stepping down layer on layer, and if I pan round and pan sort of back up, you can see how the steps come down from the top, sort of 1 foot, 2 foot. This ledge here is about 3 feet. And then where I am here, sat in the hole, is 4 feet deep. And it's great in a way, because I've sort of proven to myself that it'll take water. I can dig a pond, because at the top there you've got, so if you add 6 inches to where we are here, that's my topsoil. That's then the clay sort of topsoil. Then I'm through to clay at about 2 feet deep. Then I'm through to really, really clay, thick clay. You can see here it's just pure clay. At about 3 feet deep, and then it's kind of turning into slightly more of a gravelly clay as I go down to 4 feet. So I think even here at 4 feet, it's still clay enough that it'll hold the water, and I'm really hoping that that's the case down at 6 feet. and then we've got a great pond on our hands. But the very worst case scenario is this area, I can clear it all out. If we head back up, now I can clear it all out to this sort of depth, to the kind of the 4 feet sort of depth, and at least have a pond that is going to be 4 feet deep, hold the water, and across all this area. And I'm still on course time wise and stuff like that. It's showed me a couple of things as far as how difficult it is to dig directly down, and they say don't do it, but I wanted to do it just to see how deep the clay goes, see if I'm wasting my time or not. And I've sort of proven to myself that I'm not, that I can dig a pond here. It's going to take the water, fantastic. So now what I can do is I can go back to plan A ultimately, which is gradually remove the topsoil, so go down a foot, then go towards the centre, take another foot out, and sort of gradually work my way down to the area where I want to make sort of 6 foot deep. So next week what you can expect to see is this hole even bigger. So where the wheelbarrow is now, keep heading that way and going down, so there'll be 2 or 3 more steps in it and a much bigger hole, and hopefully, like I say, we'll hit 6 foot deep and we'll hit really solid or relatively solid clay soil, because they reckon 65% clay content to hold water. Now that there at the moment is between 100 and 90% clay content, I would say. It's really, really high. And I did a clay test with the some of the clay, or the clay soil from the top of the dig, and you can see I broke it all up, spread it into some water, splashed it around, and you can see that actually it's incredibly high clay content with a few bits of shingle and bits and bibs, and that's actually just pockets of air as well trapped, or pockets of water trapped in there. So it is incredibly high clay content. Found a shovel head, found some old bits of metal this week, found, as I say, a big pile of a big piece of concrete. So yeah, this has been the progress this week, a big hole, and I'm quite proud actually. It sounds funny to say, but I mean, I must have removed, I don't know, another 5,000 litres there just in this hole alone this week, and so you know, that's bigger than some people's entire pond. So quite proud of that, and it's all been with the trusty pickaxe and the shovel. And the deeper you go, the harder it gets, the more compact the ground gets, and the heavier each of those wheelbarrows becomes. So that's something to consider as well. But I've got another, I think digging at this rate, even in the tougher stuff that I'm digging now, I think this is going to take me 12 more weeks. I've sort of padded it out, and yeah, around about 12 more weeks. And if you don't believe me on the depth of the hole, there's my trusty tape measure, and yeah, it's all been measured. So it's been tricky. And this week we're gonna head back up to the beer area, or the bar. Should we call it the bar? Let's call it the bar, which is just a tree stump. And to prove I'm not some kind of beer ale-y snob, I've got a can, and it's a can of lager. Just got a can of lager. Okay, it's Brewdog Lager. Again, another brewery that are brewing heroes of mine. Actually, sort of know James. I used to work in Edinburgh in an off license that was not round the corner from me, but very close. And always used to try and set aside interesting beers. And so he's a good guy, really into his beers, and they make some fantastic beers. And this is their latest lager, dry hopped. So the hops go in after the initial sort of boiling and whatnot part of the process. So instead of being put in the mash tun and boiled up, they go in afterwards into the fermentation tank. And people get confused with lager and ale. They think that ale is much more complex and much more difficult to make. It's actually the other way around. Lager is a lot more tricky to make because you use different yeasts. They're bottom fermenting yeasts typically, which means it's very pale and cloudy, and that's why it's so clear. But also you have to make lagering, the process of lagering is done at a sort of fairly fixed temperature between about 12 and 14 degrees. So not quite fridge temperature, but not room temperature either. And it's a longer process because it's colder. The yeast takes longer to ferment, and it's, you know, instead of being a 4 to 6 week sort of brewing process, it's more like a 12 to 14 week brewing process. So lager, people think it's sort of cheap and horrible, and some of it is, but actually it's a much more complex, much longer process, so it's really to be appreciated and loved. This is as you would expect any lager to be, really. Beautifully clear, nice pale colour, fine fizzy bubbly head. And normally this time of year in June, although it's a shocker this weekend, the weather allows for it, and you know, it's a great drink to drink in the summer particularly. But this is a really nice lager. If you get your chance to get hands on this, do so. It's not that strong, 4.7%. It really is a kind of all day long session type lager. Yeah, get stuck in, it's great. It's a house lager should be. Many thanks for watching again. Take care of yourselves in these crazy times of protests and coronavirus, and I will see you next week. Thanks now, bye bye.